one of the most basic questions in all of science, indeed from the point of view of philosophy as well, is how did life start on planet Earth? It used to be that the favorite theory was that there was a sort of a primordial chemical soup of very basic chemicals, and that there were energy sources such as lightning strikes and heat from volcanic eruptions and all the rest of it. And somehow or other, that started chemical reactions, which developed into sort of primitive organic chemistry, and then life somehow developed from that. Then there's a theory that it came from comets, promoted mainly by Professor Chandra Wickramasinghe. Didn't say how life started in comets in the first place, but that it was brought to Earth on comets. And then there's another theory which is now gaining a lot more traction, and that is that it actually came to Earth, at least the primitive building blocks for life came to Earth on meteorites. And you might well say, well, actually, there's not a huge difference between some meteorites and some comets, which is probably true. There's some crossover ones, but for this particular talk, we're concentrating on what we think of as pretty normal meteorites, in other words, fragments of asteroids. So what has happened is that in the past, some meteorites have been found to contain what are called sort of prebiotic chemicals. In other words, things that form the basis for life, although they're not actually a form of life in themselves. For example, the Murchison meteorite, which fell in Australia in 1969, was found to contain some nucleobases. In other words, the basic chemicals that go to form the basis of RNA and DNA. But that was only part of the story. So the latest development now is that astronomers and biologists and geologists in Japan have studied some new meteorites with not so much new meteorites, but using new techniques, which of course are becoming more and more advanced all the time. You now only need micrograms of a particular substance to be able to get a huge amount of information from it. So they have studied the Murchison meteorite again and some other ones, and they have found all of the components that make up RNA and DNA, and they basically are the building blocks of life. That's the famous double helix, which allows the reproduction of the information in cells and cell reproduction, which gives you multicellular organisms. So it's a very, very important step. It's indicating more and more that the chances that the building blocks for life came to Earth from space. And basically what we think is that the basic chemicals exist out there in comet nuclei and on asteroids, and that there's a chemical process which happens in space due to either energy from the sun or energy from cosmic rays or solar radiation and other wavelengths, which starts that basic chemistry developing on the meteorites and on the comets.